Hey
All
everyone,
right.
Ben Coomber Radio. We have another transatlantic show. Do not ask me what podcast this is. I am backloading like a mofo at the moment for my trip away. I could even be back, who knows? But I'm sitting here. It's bright and bushy for me. It's 9 a.m. But for the guy I'm talking to, it's not 9 a.m. It's 1 a.m. Rehan Jalali, how you doing?
Good. How are you, Ben? Glad to have be on the show.
Mate, I am tip top. I am a morning owl. We've just been chatting. You are a bit of a night owl, but then you tell me you're a bit of both.
I'm a 24-hour owl, so to speak.
You,
So day and night and day.
are you actually a cyborg?
I'm part cyborg and part alien and part human. I think three-way.
Wow, that's what happens when you know every trick in the trade and live the LA lifestyle, right? You just turn into an iRobot.
Basically, I mean, some of my friends call me a Jalalian. Actually, is my nickname.
Do you have a little Apple logo on your bum?
Not that I know of, but the night's still young.
Everything good I own is Apple, so
That's right.
apart from we're now on take three, and I have an Apple computer, so it's not living up to its claims today.
Hey, don't worry.
So, for all my listeners and people that are hopefully going to listen to this on your network, and they'll likely know who you are anyway, but who on earth is Rehan Jahali?
What's funny is I was explaining to someone with a friend of mine. We were together at dinner, and somebody asked me that question. So what do you do? And I was, going back and forth trying to explain to him. And 10 minutes later, my friend is looking at me like, "Dude, you have no idea what you really do you?" So what he did was he actually made me business cards, and he gave me these business cards, and I was thinking to myself, "Oh, cool, nice. I don't know how if you know my address or whatever." The business card is a blank card that has my name, and underneath my name it says Google me.
Mate,
And
I was
that's
just
the
about
card.
to suggest that.
That's the card. And that's the whole card. And you know what? I go, you know what? That is probably the easiest thing to do instead of me bumbling around trying to tell you, what I've done for the past 20 years in the industry. You know what I mean? Might as well just look it up, I guess.
Mate, that is insane. When you progress so much in your career, you end up doing a lot, and you're diversifying your business and enjoying lots of different angles, fingers in pies, and it does get harder. People ask you, and like people ask me now, and I feel a little bit deflated when people ask me because I just go, I'm a nutritionist.
That's
And
kind of where I'm at.
I
That's kind
just
of where I'm
leave it
at.
at that because anything more is more complicated, and then anything more, people are going, yeah, all right, yeah, oh, big shot,
I,
all right.
I mean, how do you explain what you've been doing for the past 25 years? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yes, I'm very old, by the way. I'm very old. I started back in the Paleolithic era is when I started dieting. My paleo diet was with the dinosaurs, actually. So.
Wow, so you were brought up on sort of T Rexes and stuff. You nibbled them.
Yes, Brontosaurus burgers.
So, I mean, winding it back the years, 20 years, what on earth got you into the health and fitness industry? Where did it start?
It started a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away from LA, at least. Uh, Actually, I grew up in Texas, and I started bodybuilding. And I started bodybuilding at a young age and training for sports, American football, and so on. And then I got into it, made 100 mistakes. I had no mentors. I kind of took me 2 years of training just to even figure out, what's right, what's wrong. And then I started competing and had really good success in bodybuilding. Like I said, I competed about 100 years ago, but when I did compete for about 9 years, I competed at the national level in powerlifting, bodybuilding, and then it was a natural progression that I should learn about nutrition and biochemistry. So I started off, my major was nutrition and biochemistry, and kind of went on from there. I thought it made sense that I should learn about my body, and it was funny because in college initially I was an accounting major. Could you imagine me counting numbers and being an accountant? So I was like, no more numbers. I'm going to go into nutrition and biochemistry. So it kind of started off from bodybuilding and kind of went on from there.
Wow, nice and nice. So, I mean, these days, what does a day in the life of Rehan look like?
Really, it's I call it the potpourri of fitness and health. Really, I mean, literally, I'll give you a perfect example of today. Today could be an interview with you in the UK. Then it'll be product formulation for my own products and some, consulting contracts I have for other companies. Then I'll be writing articles for several magazines. Then it might be a couple hours of sleep, hopefully a little more, and then I'll be up and training a few clients, getting ready for movies. Then I'll be going into some business meetings about some TV commercials I might be doing for products. Then I'll be writing a chapter of my new book, and then I may meet another guy for a consulting, thing, and then I'll do another interview probably in the evening, and then do it all over again.
Mate, legend. What a legend.
So kind of, and then I'll work out somewhere in the middle too myself.
Yeah, like people email me and they're like, how do you get so much done? I'm like, well, A, being organised, but B, the secret is get it done. Don't sit around and think about it.
That's exactly right. And you
Yeah.
got the right, you know how it is. And I'm sure you get millions of emails a day. So, I have 5 emails and I get probably 200 or 300 emails on each one of them, and eventually catch up at some point.
Yeah, yeah. You raised on an interesting point that I was going to raise later, but I'll raise it now. You talking about fitting in your workout. I was watching a few of your videos on YouTube this morning from back in the day. I think this was from 2007. Saying that you train about 30 minutes a day, 3 to 4 times a week. Is that still the case? Is it that small amount of time?
A little more now, because as you get older, you got to do a little more. You know what I mean? But it's yeah, definitely. And the way I've always trained, and this is why probably my body's breaking down now, is because I've always trained super heavy, always super intense, muscle failure, fatigue. I believe that's the best way to get results. Pretty much tried every single workout technique in the last 20 years, and really the only thing that's ever worked for me personally has been that sort of heavyweight powerlifting type training with muscle failure involved. So.
So
Quality over quantity.
if you were to wind back the years and do it all again, a little bit of advice for people that are listening, how would you do it? What is the best way to formulate a healthy, solid 30, 40 years of training?
I probably would do the same thing because that's all I would know.
Sure.
I just, I only know a balls out sort of way. Can I say that? That's all I know. Really, it's just balls to wall sort of training where it's intensity, quality over quantity. So I'm not really sure. People ask me that question. It's funny, people ask me that question. Would you do things differently? I said probably not because I wouldn't get results if I did anything else.
Sure. So, everyone that's listening will be interested to hear the insight, and I bet you get these questions, all the time. And am I correct in thinking you've lived in LA for a long time?
14 years. Yes.
14 years.
So pretty long.
Where were you before that?
Well, I'll give you a quick synopsis. So from Texas, I after my studies in nutrition and biochemistry, I started working for EAS actually
Yep.
before they became EAS. When they were pretty small. When they used to sell creatine for 80 pounds a bottle. That's a regular creatine. So I moved to Denver, Colorado actually, and worked for EAS, and it grew from a small company to a really large company. In the 2.5 years I was there, I wrote for Muscle Media magazine and was involved in all kinds of body transformation and working with athletes and things like that. And then I moved to Florida and worked with a company called Rexall Sundown and helped them buy Metrex. Actually, so they actually brought me on board for a year to evaluate the Metrex company, and we bought Metrex. And after that, then I moved to California from Florida. So then started developing products here and set up my operation in LA.
Nice. So obviously you've worked with some of the biggest stars in the industry. When I think Sylvester Stallone is on your website is saying you are the man, which is a great kind of quote to have behind your name. What's life like living in LA? Is it different? Is it fast moving? Is it all the glam and rock that everyone assumes it is?
I'm a legend in my own mind. Does that count?
I'm a legend in my own mind, and I live down a dirt track opposite a cow field.
Exactly. There you go. It's all about confidence, right? But as far as working with celebrities, it's never a dull day. But what's interesting, people ask me that question, and you know what? They're human beings, right? They're humanoids.
Mm.
So basically, they get cravings, they get lazy. It's just they have access to more things, right? They have a private chef, and they have me to help them, and they have other people come in and that fly with them, and handlers and things like that. So they do have it easier. But in terms of the basic human trait, they still got to do the work. I mean, Sly is one of the hardest trainers I've ever met in my life. Ben Affleck trains, like a bodybuilder. Some Hugh Jackman, which we, did for Wolverine, he was training like a bodybuilder, powerlifter. So these guys work hard. They go intense. They don't slack at all, and they've got the same issues we all got. Injuries and battling time. And in fact, I would say that they have it worse because their time is extremely limited.
Mm.
I mean, their schedules are booked 6 months in advance, a year in advance. So to fit training and dieting and taking supplements and all that, I think makes it harder. But they do have help.
Sure, sure. Because we look at celebrity bodies. We'll look at Sylvester Stallone, and a magazine will be like, "Oh, he prepared for 4 months to get in shape for his show." And all these people have a great foundation of training already. But I think the thing that people don't realize is they are, these actors, right? I'm right in thinking, will get paid for a period of time to get their ass in the gym and get in the best shape of their life.
Absolutely. And that's one thing that I have to tell you is like, some of us may have a little pressure, and I always believe in having a deadline, which is critical. You
Hmm.
got to have a specific goals. You got to have a deadline. But for them, their deadline is different than our deadline. Their deadline, they're getting paid $25 million for, or,
Mm.
and also they're going to be on the big screen and their bodies are scrutinized worldwide. So their
Mm.
their pressure is a little bit different because they're always with the paparazzi, and I mean they're every part of their body is scrutinized. If you see any of those guys out of shape, guess what? That picture will be everywhere. You know
Sure,
what I mean?
sure.
So that in that case, they actually have a very high level of pressure and motivation to get in the best shape of their life, or whatever it may be for that movie.
Definitely, definitely. God, look, if you paid me 25 million, which feel free to, I'll go to the gym for you, Rehan. I'll do that for you.
Maybe 25 pounds. That's about all. I'm trying to be a thousandaire.
uh,
Well, what's interesting to note is it's very it's interesting that as you're a researcher, you write, and you do some really you really help a lot of people out transformation wise, and I've done it for the past 20 years, and I've done so many things, books and articles, and I've developed more than hundreds of products, and it's funny because most people really just care about the celebrities, and
yeah,
it's like,
yeah.
well, how about all the other stuff about helping people transform their lives and bodies? They're like, no, they don't care. I was giving a seminar. I do a certification course globally on nutrition and supplements, and I was giving this 2 day, 16-hour intensive. I mean, highly intensive, detailed course about human physiology, biochemistry, cellular, everything. Detailed course in Italy. And after this 2 day, 16-hour course, I say, okay, it's time for the Q&A. And I'm like, okay, I'm pumped up. My neurotransmitters are firing. I'm like, okay, they're gonna hit me with some crazy stuff. They're gonna be talking about, heat shock proteins or brown adipose tissue or uncoupling proteins. And guess what the first question was? The first question they asked me was, "Hey, how tall is Sylvester Stallone?" And I'm like looking at this guy like, "Are you serious right now?" I mean, I just gave 16 hours of everything I had, and you want to know how tall Stallone is? Jesus. I mean, come on. So that's the kind of stuff you get. You just have to expect that because that's what people remember.
Yeah, unbelievable, unbelievable. Um, but you can see why it's the kind of stuff that we read every day. It's in our faces in magazines, on TV, and
Oh yeah.
suppose that's people's perception. And the supplements that are sold, the diets are sold. They're all sold behind these bodies, so people want to know about the body that sells a product or a system.
It's the power. Yeah, it's a marketing machine. It's a It's amazing how celebrities can really market products. How people really follow them. I'll give you a perfect example. There was one time when Ben Affleck was working out, and after the gym, he actually held my book in his hand, walking outside, and the paparazzi took a picture of that and put it into People Magazine, Us Weekly, and all that. And that week, I sold 5,000 copies in
Thank
five
you, Ben
days.
Affleck.
Yeah, you know what I mean? I mean, could you imagine? I mean, just because he held my book in his hand. I mean, who even, but because of that, 5,000 copies that week. So I understand the power of celebrity marketing, and it's notoriety, it's all of that thing. And like you
Mm.
said, we're blasted with it every day in our face. So what do you expect?
The week after that happened, you were in the Bahamas, weren't you, sipping on some pina coladas?
No, I was in L.A. lifting weights, trying to sell another 5,000.
Coming, but you mentioned you run a course. This sounds fascinating. If I wanted to get on this course, how do I get it? Where do you deliver it? What governing body?
Sure. Now I'm doing it with Physique Elite. So Physique Elite, they have a course called the Advanced Nutrition Certification course,
Yep.
and this course is a 1 day course. There's a test at the end, so you can go to physique-elite.com and you can get all the information on that website. I do about 4 to 6 courses a year now. I'm going to be doing. So we started off with a few in the UK, in London, which were pretty successful, and then we're going to do some more now in India and other places.
Nice. Well, I'll make sure I'll be on the next one.
Oh, geez, you could probably teach it.
Nah, mate, I am never too. You're never too young in your career to learn. It's something that we talk about on the podcast all the time. Is the day you stop learning is the day that you fall out of love with the industry. Your ego gets too big, and you lose sight of really what you're doing.
Absolutely, and like I said, I've seen so many people come and go. Like I said, I've been in the industry for literally 20 years. I've seen every fad. I've seen every kind of diet. I've seen literally people who wanted to make a fast buck, for example, who are basically no longer around,
Hmm.
and to have longevity in the industry. That's what I'm really proud. One thing I'm really proud of is longevity in the industry. Is people came and went by these fly by night tricks and whatever, marketing products that don't work, and they made their money or whatever. But to me, I've actually lost more money than I've made, really, because I wanted to just always promote stuff that really does work, that has real research behind it, and that really helps people at the end of the day.
Mm. See, that's a sign of an entrepreneur. Is he makes enough money to cover his failures.
Well, I try my best at least. That's why you gotta keep working. Otherwise, I wouldn't be
Exactly.
keep working. But anyway, you know what? It's interesting that you say that because it's to me, it's not even work. I mean, I got a little secret for you. I guess the secret's going to be out right now since we're live. But it's I created a business out of my hobby. So
Yeah.
really, I mean, to me, it's fascinating learning about the human body. Every day, there's something new I research or study. And it's amazing how much more I have to learn. Even though I've been learning for 20 years.
Mm. Yeah. Respect. If I'm still doing it at 20 years, well, that's the plan. Like you, I've built a business around what I love doing, and I won't blink twice at working a 12, 14-hour day, and you probably will do exactly the same because it's not like work, it's like another day of fun, you know.
Well, I always say I'm busier than a one-legged man in an ass-kicking contest. That's pretty busy.
It
I mean, that's
is.
pretty busy.
It is. So I'm intrigued. You are part of this supplement research foundation. Is it something that you personally set up, or is it something that you're part of? And what is your role? What does this body aim to do?
No, actually, I set this up myself, and
Okay.
I have help now with some doctors and things. But I set this up in 1998, and back then, you probably don't even remember 1998, but back then there was basically very little information about supplements,
Mm.
and most people out there, it's not like it is today. There was very little internet advice. The only people that were giving information about supplements were people marketing products, and
Mm.
I just felt that there was a conflict of interest in some cases. So I said, you know what, I'm gonna start an independent body that basically evaluates ingredients. Doesn't really talk about products or things, but just says, look, this ingredient works. Here's the research, and or this ingredient is garbage.
Mm.
And I used to write a column in Muscle Media magazine called the Industry Watchdog. And this Watchdog column was one of the most popular columns I've ever had in any magazine. And one of the things people liked about it was a no holds barred sort of information bed about supplements. And I'd call people out. I'd say, no, this doesn't work, and here's why. And they're using research that doesn't really relate to the product. You know what I mean? So
Mm.
that's kind of things. My goal has always been to provide consumers with the best information to help them get the best results possible. Because at the end of the day, I don't care how smart you are and how many big words you use. If it's not translatable to someone in their personal fitness goals, it doesn't mean anything. So.
Nice. What a legend of an attitude. Thinking specifically about supplements and coming back to your Physique Elite course, the last one you did in London, I noticed that there was a fair bit of talk on the internet after your course about specifically for some reason about CLA. I think it's
Yes.
because the opinion in the UK, and I would probably this is my opinion as well, is that CLA in the researchers has a very mixed feedback. Some studies are showing good positive variables, others are showing negative, others not at all. Now, obviously, a lot of the time there's research that contradicts most things. What is your opinion on CLA? I know you're a fan. Why should other people potentially be a fan of CLA when it's naturally found in food?
Because you can't get the amounts you need to have physiological effect, and that's why supplements work because they provide concentrated dosages that you really certainly can't get in food. As far as CLA is concerned, you're right. There is a lot of mixed research. I believe there's enough good research, and I've actually conducted studies on CLA myself
Okay.
at universities, independent research that showed good effects. In products I've made myself, so me personally, I've seen it. I've seen it work for my clients. I've seen the research on it extensively. I've been studying it for many, many years, Clarinol and Tonilin and the different patented brands. And I've seen good enough, research to recommend it to people again. But I gotta tell you one thing that I always tell everybody else is CLA is not magic. CLA only works if you have a good food program, if you're training intensely, if you're sleeping well, and then CLA may help you get better results quicker.
Sure.
Now, if people think they can take CLA and get results, no, you can't. It's not going to work unless you have all those pieces of the puzzle first. Then CLA could be an additive effect, and I think it can certainly help you because it does stimulate certain enzymes like lipoprotein lipase and other things that do help, stimulate the fat burning process, and it does spark uncoupling proteins. I don't want to get too technical, but that does stimulate brown adipose tissue. Research has shown that, and there's new research coming out on CLA with effects on brown fat specifically. So I think there's enough research to at least give it a shot if you're, again, with a big caveat, if you're dieting, if you're, I don't like to use the word dieting, but if you're eating well, if you're training hard, doing cardio, and also if you're sleeping well, then of course I think it can have an additive effect.
Nice. So thinking about some of the negatives that we see in the research papers, do you feel that these are because the research study hasn't got the diet component correct when they're delivering it, or that the dose is too low?
Absolutely, I think it could be one of both things, and that's really interesting. People always quote research studies, and I always tell people, look, I can convince you of any single opinion based on any studies. Look, I could literally find research that could support any position. So if you wanted to be anti CLA, I could find that research.
Yeah.
If you wanted to be pro CLA, I could find that research. So what you got to look at is the studies that showed that it didn't work. I think one of the flaws was it used the wrong form of CLA.
Right.
There's different forms. There's cis 9, 11 trans, cis 10, 12 trans. There's different forms of CLA. Some are better isomers than others. So using the wrong isomer, dosage is certainly a factor based on body weight. Also, duration of usage. Diet components along with it. If you're, for example, if you have a group that was already eating, for example, beef, or taking sunflower oil, or getting some amount of CLA initially, and then they had more CLA added to their diet through supplementation, may not have seen as good results if for someone who has never even had CLA in their body. So there's many factors to research, and I think you could pick apart any study, but you just have to look at the majority of the research, the quality of the research, and how the research was done. Me personally, I only look at peer-reviewed, double-blind, placebo-controlled studies. That's really what I go off of. But there's also a real world component you do have to look at. If the research is there, then there is a real world component that you do look at. And if everybody's getting results that you work with, partially from CLA, it could be diet, of course, training and sleep. But if they're getting some added benefit, then you can certainly recommend it.
Nice to hear a guy that is researched for so long on supplements and is so heavily involved in supplement research and development and supplement usage to see you come back to your roots and say, look, all of this is great, brilliant, whatever. But unless you're doing the diet and training thing and you're actually getting the diet and training thing spot on, not 60%, 70%, dabbling here and there, then it's all useless anyway, because that is the bricks and the mortar and these are just the nuts and the bolts.
I agree 1000%. That's it's funny people always say that. They're like, "Well, I thought you were a supplement guy. Aren't you like the supplement guru? Why would you say that?" I'm like, I've said that my whole career. It's that what? Food first, always. I would even put food over training, to be honest with you. I'd put
Mm,
food first, then I would put training, then I would put cardio, then I would put sleep, and then after sleep, then I would put supplements.
mm-hmm.
So to me, it's fifth on the list.
Sure.
That's what it is. And again, if you take the right supplements, and a lot of the good thing about supplements is if you're deficient in one of those areas, then supplements can certainly have a more of a positive effect. If you're missing nutrients, if your diet is poor, see, most people's diets aren't proper. They're very poor. They're missing nutrients like vitamin D or other things, and so taking supplements can have sort of a replenishing sort of effect.
Sure. What are the supplements that what are the nutrients that you find that people are very commonly deficient in and should probably supplement regardless of whoever they are?
Vitamin D. I mean, number one for sure. Most and actually, I test people for. I do a very extensive test in my practice. I test 100 different nutrients. I do gene testing. I do, food allergies. I test vitamins, minerals, everything. So the most common things I find are vitamin D. Magnesium seems to be low in certain people. Zinc, some of the minerals generally are lower. Also, copper seems to be low in certain people. So kind of interesting. But
Interesting.
generally, minerals and vitamins I find to be lower in certain people because of their lifestyle. There's more stress, there's more smog, food is more processed. There's so many problems with food now, as you know. I mean, you're a food researcher, so you see the sort of deficiencies in food, and we're kind of paying for it. And in fact, there was a research report. It was actually the greatest research report revealed of its kind. It was a global research report, and it was done in 50 countries by 500 doctors. It was the most extensive study of its kind. It actually showed for the first time in history that people actually are there's more deaths associated with overeating than undereating for
Hmm.
the first time in history. So we know the food quality is causing that, the food excessiveness and the gluttony and all that. So again, if you correct your food, then you won't have that issue. But if you can't correct your food, then again, supplements can certainly help with that.
Yeah. See, that's fascinating. We're taking in more calories and we're becoming more now malnourished purely because of the
Yeah,
food that we're eating, and it's an alarming statistic for the general public, and they should pay attention to it.
I mean, it's the first time it's ever happened in the history of reporting. You know what I mean? So I mean, literally, people are dying of overeating versus undereating. It's amazing.
Crazy. Um, I have a lot of personal trainers that listen to the show in the UK, and I know that you're a huge fan of biochemistry and the things that it can make us understand about the human body. For trainers that are listening, why would you urge them, or what are the benefits to researching and understanding the biochemistry of the human body?
There's many benefits. Again, without getting technical, one thing I've wanted to do in my career, and people have told me I've done okay with it, is taking very detailed scientific mumbo jumbo and making it user friendly. Because translating it, so to speak, because the common person that you're training is not going to understand these big words or terms, and they don't really care. To be honest with you,
Yeah.
they want to how do I get a six pack? That's what they care about. So understanding biochemistry can help the trainers get information to help get a six pack quicker, so to speak, because they will understand more about the client. And one thing I know you stress this as well, and I've stressed this for over 20 years, is everybody is different. There's no, and one thing that extremely bothers me about the industry is these cookie cutter programs. I know many nutritionists and even trainers who give sort of cookie cutter programs to everybody. And I'm thinking to myself, wow. I mean, if you have an understanding of biochemistry, so to speak, and if you have an understanding of how the body works, you would know that every single person is completely different.
Mm.
And when I test them, and actually, this is not just my opinion. I actually test them in the laboratory, saliva testing. I do urine analysis. I do blood work, everything, and you'll see every single person is completely different. I mean, from their genes to how their cellular energy works. Food allergies, everything. So, I think customization is one of the keys to fitness success.
Mm. That's why you gotta never stop learning.
And I never, one thing I will say, I don't guess, I test.
Nice, nice. You just mentioned six pack. You are the author of a book called The Six Pack Plan, I believe.
Yes, the six pack diet plan is my original book. The next book is going to be called the eight pack diet plan, actually.
Whoa,
A little advanced.
you're slowly building anatomy onto people.
Listen, we started from the bottom, now we're here.
um, if people were to buy this book, like, what's in it? Is it your thoughts? Is it a program?
It's a little bit of both. It's biochemistry. It's food. It's a lot of it is nutrition based. Types of foods to eat. Research on six pack. A lot of supplement information as well. I've actually written another book just on supplements itself called the Sports Supplement Buyer's Guide, which is just on supplements and vitamins and minerals. But this six pack book really talks about planning a program around getting a six pack, just specifically for abs and even whole body health. But talks about sleep. There's a chapter about sleep in the book, about the 5 stages of sleep and how to maximize sleep and why sleep is important, and kind of again for someone to understand how the body works in a sort of layman's way.
Nice, nice. And if people want to buy that, it's where?
It's Amazon.com, everywhere online. You can just look it up. Look up the six pack diet plan. It's on most websites. It's in most bookstores. It's around. There's even a Kindle version now you can download. So.
Nice. Well, you are everywhere, and that's why when people need to look up your name, they should just Google you.
Hey, that's what. It's funny because I don't use that card too much, but sometimes I kind of play a joke on people and give them that card. They don't even look at it and put it in their pocket, and I'm wondering what they think about me when they open that card up and like, what? That's it? Google me?
Have people ever given you feedback? Have people ever gone, what? But
No, they just yeah, they did. They laughed. They laugh. They laugh and they're like, you know what? I actually makes sense. It's probably easier.
See, next time you give that card to someone like Ben Affleck or someone, you just nonchalantly go, there you go. There you go.
I give it out like a real business card, and they don't even look at it. Like, oh, thank you, cool. And I'm just like, oh man, wait till they see that later.
So if people listening in the UK want to listen to you present at one of your courses, when are you next in the UK? Is it soon?
Hopefully, we're trying to organize something for October or November. So, I know it gets a little bit colder back then, and my sunny LA physique can't handle the cold too well. So hopefully October.
Nice. Well, for people listening, check that shit out. It's been amazing talking to you, buddy. Absolute pleasure. Your perspective is refreshing. And you're immensely knowledgeable. I didn't actually know you'd written so many detailed articles on your website, and I was doing a bit more research this morning because we met at Body Power UK this year. And
Yes,
it was only
right.
briefly. Didn't really get much time to talk. And doing some research this morning, I was reading some of your articles on insulin sensitizing supplements, and there was two there that I'd never heard on. And I was like, I need to know more of this guy's stuff.
So, yeah, I try to give you the latest information.
So if you haven't won anyone else over, you've won me over, and I'll be doing some more stalking, as they call it.
No problem. Anytime.
Not on Facebook though. I won't be like trawling through pictures and commenting.
No, we'll keep it professional.
Yeah, definitely. So, dude, if people want to find out more about you, what's the best way to do it apart from Google? What are you on Twitter, Facebook?
It's always at Six Pack Diet Plan.
Cool.
So if you look up Six Pack Diet Plan, SIX, you can find me. My website is thesixpackdietplan.com. So if you go to thesixpackdietplan.com, you can find everything on there, basically.
Awesome. Absolutely awesome. Well, thank you very much for being on the show. It's been a pleasure. For anyone listening, please share this with your network. Connect with Rehan on Twitter. I'm sure he'd love to hear what you thought of the show. Please,
absolutely
at us in when you tweet so we can see your feedback, and we're more than happy to engage and get in conversation with you guys. If you enjoyed the show, please leave a review on iTunes. For anyone watching on YouTube, I hope you've enjoyed a fuzzy, blurry picture of Rehan's forehead and eyes. But at least
I hope it wasn't too shiny. My God, I didn't have time for hair and makeup, so I just kept it raw this time.
Nice. All right then, Rehan. Well, thank you very much for being on the show, and that is the podcast, Ben Coomber Radio, out.
Thanks, Ben, for having me, and all the best to you. Bye.
Hey everyone, welcome back. Episode number 50. It's the half century. I will give myself a little whoop whoop. For anyone confuzzled, that is the voice of Anna from proteinpow.com. How is thou?
I am doing fantastically well.